everybody, and welcome back to Mastercrafted. We are here with another video talking about the missions, and what lovely mission do we have today, Phil? Everybody's favorite, right? People love this one.
Yeah, it's a love or hate relationship for a lot of people. It's Terraform. There are some armies that do it incredibly well and can really cause some problems, and there are some armies that see this mission on the mission pack and go, well, if I go into the wrong
it definitely
thing, I guess
can be
that's
punishing, and it also is one of those where you really, you're going to have a game plan whether you go first or second, but a lot of the time, especially in certain matchups like you're talking about, going first is just super, super strong on this mission.
Yeah, this is one of the few missions that going first is beneficial if you have the right army to take advantage of it. There are some armies that can't take advantage of it and will still suffer from going first, but this is one that you could, if you saw this in your mission pack, build for. And just like right off the bat, if I see a mission that has Terraform, or a mission pack that has Terraform, I'm looking for units that have infiltrate, units that have scout, units that can do an action and still do something. Like Terraform is one of the few missions in Chapter Approved 2526 that actually is an action-based primary game.
Yes,
on
yes,
top
it is.
of
It is
controlling
probably the
objectives.
most involved when it comes to actually having to do primary actions for a very, very small reward when you think about it on just like the by turn basis, right? If you're constantly flipping, the rewards you get out of it is very, very little, but you are getting the pressure of how much scoring it could get you, especially as you're at the first couple turns in the game. If you're like, man, I've just traded enough resources, you really can't flip this back. That is a lot of points that now are just in your scoreboard that your opponent has to be wary of.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that maybe haven't played haven't played Terraform as much as they possibly could have or should have, just give you a couple like scenarios that you're gonna see, right? So if our opponent decides, okay, well, I'm gonna put a unit on objective. They're battle line, they're 2 OC apiece. Let's say we have 4 models on there, right? So now we say, okay, I got 8 OC on here. The end all be all of Terraform is, do you have enough units to either flip that objective by either combat or shooting? And then on top of that, do you also have enough units to go out there and do an action? And then the kind of like wrinkle in the problem is, well, what if I get a turn where I get multiple action secondaries that I need to do? Well, that just throws a wrench in all of these things, because then that means I'm giving up points somewhere. And that could be incredibly tough for some armies, because if I have a unit that's incredibly killy and I come out here and I wipe this unit that's on the objective, well, I can't terraform that objective, and our opponent still controls. Like, our opponent can still get the points for Terraform. And you score those points at the end of your turn and the end of your opponent's turn. So it is also one of those where you're scoring primary in your opponent's turn as well. So that is significant in terms of total game scoring. So like right off the bat, that is the stipulation, that is the problem that the majority of players are trying to solve is, okay, if I flip this objective, do I have enough units to then flip it, the Terraform action? And then on top of that, do I have enough units to do the rest of the game?
Yeah, it really is just, it's that game within a game. Like we were talking about how that just a full extra layer of the scoring, of how simple it is to flip back and forth. But these are always, in any other mission, these are units that you need to have shooting, right? You need to be activating. And I think that's one of the things that I have found as I've kind of been looking at games people play. They're worrying about trying to flip too many or be able to flip their opponent's natural when they really don't have the resources to sustain that. And the better thing you should be doing is making sure your own isn't getting flipped, so that you're not wasting resources flipping your own natural back, right? So then you can fight across the board, say, you know what, I know from the get-go I cannot just constantly deny you. I'm going to make sure my own is safe, right? And I don't see enough people playing with that in mind, and they end up throwing away too many of their resources early in the game, flipping or going out to claim, right? Like, if you have a unit, we'll say, you're on the red side, you're behind that little 2-inch ruin on the bottom of the screen, right? And you're like, this is fast enough, I can go out there, I can flip that, I can do whatever. And they get first turn, you're really losing the value of that unit by running it out there turn one and doing it. A lot of the times we do say that is worth it, But if you are playing the army that doesn't have the extra resources, that's not worth it. You need to save that so that not only are you flipping it to be yours, you're doing it turn 2 when you are flipping it away from being theirs, right? Because it's not going to take much for them to just kill your unit, right? You're just throwing that away, right? Don't get hyper fixated on it. Well, I can terraform, so I must, right? Get value out of it. Sure, something is going to have to go terraform it for them, but they were planning on that anyway, and killing your unit is probably not going to be that hard turn 1, right? So save that. Keep that for a time when you're actually maybe going to have resources pushed out to clear them off the objectives, because maybe your unit can't just auto-see them and do it anyway, right? You're really trying to find those times in a game where you don't have the action economy advantage to make sure that your terraforms, your counter terraforms in specific, really count.
Yeah, absolutely fair. And all these layouts are going to be different, and all these armies, in terms of how they get after a mission like Terraform, is going to be different as well. So you need to be incredibly prepared to go after Terraform. So I just want to put a few things in your head right before Lane and I give some tips and tricks as to what to do. There are some unique interactions of Terraform. The first being that you can only terraform objectives that are not within your deployment zone, which means I can terraform the deployment zone or the objective marker in your deployment zone, and you cannot flip it back. Is that cheeky? Yes. Does it rarely ever happen? Yes. Put it in the back of your head that if I have the opportunity to terraform my opponent's home, that is for the game. They will never, ever be able to flip that back. Should it be that way? I don't think so. But it is the way the rules are written, and it is the way it is judged at any tournament I've ever been to, which is quite a few. So, like, overall, just something to keep in mind. So, it's just one interaction. Another interaction that's really interesting in terms of when Terraform actually scores. So let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things a lot of people do get wrong, is how it scores now. There was a shift from Pariah Nexus into Chapter Approved. The way it does score is at the beginning of your turn, when it is your turn, you do score 4 VP for each objective marker you do hold, up to 12 VP per turn. Right, so there is a cap on that. If you're holding 4 and you have, like, and even if you don't have any terraforms done, you're not scoring 16, you're scoring 12. It does have that stipulation and cap in there. And then at the end of every single turn, whether it is your turn or your opponent's turn, you get 1 VP per objective that you have terraformed, as long as it's after turn 1, right? Turn 2 onwards, this is how you're scoring, right? So anything you do terraform in your turn, you will score it at the end of your turn, and your opponent will score anything they have terraformed as well, and that will be consistent throughout.
Yeah, absolutely fair. The other thing that's really important to notice is when you start the terraform action, you just have to be within range of the objective marker, and it has to not be within your deployment zone. So you can start this action even if you don't control it. The stipulation is you have to control it by the time the action completes, which is the end of the turn. So you have a whole combat phase, you have a whole shooting phase to put a unit out there and say, okay, I expect to terraform this, and my shooting and other combat will allow me to do so. Just things to put in the back of your head, right? Does not cause an activation that would prevent you from terraforming the objective. So if you absolutely needed to, you can pay the CP for the unit that you expect to terraform, and it will be able to throw a grenade, and then also on top of that, do the action for terraform. That is significant. You need to keep those 3 things in common. You don't need to control when you start the action. You need to control it at the end of the turn when the action completes. And there are ways around it for your unit to still be able to do things, even if it means like you have to spend CP to do it, right? So
yeah, I think that's a great point. I kind of already touched on it and kind of went through, as we're looking at matchups, right? I'm the more elite player, right? I can't afford to always go to Nayu, right? I need to secure my own. What are some of the things you have found, Phil, as you are looking at the Terraform when it comes to either a matchup basis or layout potential basis on things that really affect how you go about playing this mission?
Yeah, so if I'm running more of an elite army, and I know I'm not going to be able to terraform as much, I am playing the primary Denio game, and I'm also playing, I'm just playing objectives. I'm almost saying, hey, I just got to make sure you don't terraform every objective. I will give you the 2 or 3 points because I know I need to pressure you enough that it's going to prevent you from doing other secondaries in the game. I need you to spend activations on potentially flipping them and doing the terraforms that's going to reduce your efficiency into me. And I have to be able to punish those things. So like if I was running Custodes into a mission like Terraform, right, I'm looking to pressure you on the turn that you want to go out and terraform a bunch of things, right? Like I have to kill every single thing that's exposed. And even if I don't flip the objectives back, it does not matter. Like I have to pedal to the metal, put all the gas up. If I'm able to flip an objective, great. I will take the advantage and I'll try to flip the objective back. But at the end of the day, the name of the game for an elite army in Terraform is pressure. I have to pressure you. I have to make sure that every time you come out and you try to do an action, and you're wasting an activation of a unit, I'm going to punish you for it. I'm going to make sure that unit dies. I cannot allow that unit for free to flip a terraform and then be able to go about its merry way.
You know, you were talking about, having that kind of go turn. They're going to be trying to push, maybe do some flipping as well as handle whatever you put out there. If you do put too much out there, they can't afford to not deal with it, as you were saying. And that's one of the other things. I don't think there's a single mission that has more of a necessity for you to kill units as a whole, right? You killing trash units. It doesn't matter what units you're killing. You need to mess with their action economy when possible, right? We're still playing Smart 40k. We're not just like, oh God, 2 trash units. I'm yeeting my however many point warden brick to go kill 2 little units for fun. But we're still making sure that when given the opportunity, we are clearing their trash units, especially when they have yet to flip it back, right? If we were able to maybe get a flip early, kind of in that mid board, if we have the opportunity to kill a trash unit over kind of maybe hurt it a little bit and then hurt maybe a damage dealing unit a little bit, getting rid of those trash units early in the game can make it very, very difficult for your opponent to flip them back. And it can make it very worth it early to make those decisions, right? So just something to kind of keep in mind, because as soon as their action economy is messed up, if they don't have the ability to flip back that middle, because you've taken away enough of their resources that they feel okay with standing there on the middle point and not doing any damage, right? Then you could hold the middle for 4 extra turns. And that could be, that's a whole nother turn of primary, basically, off of 4 VP.
Yeah. Yep, like full unit wipes. The priority needs to be you can't leave things alive, because if you leave things alive, all it's going to turn into is that's another unit that is potentially going to be able to do an action. And if a unit can do an action, it means that they can terraform. And in a mission like Terraform, those single man units that are just hanging around being annoying can be the make or break difference. So how you kill units, how you layer your shooting or your combat to make sure that your opponent doesn't pull or remove models in such a way that you don't get to interact. For example, if we see this, I see my opponent line up his units and he's got a bunch of OC on here and he's got, he or she has a couple units that are behind. Like, I only have one realistic activation to wipe this unit, because if I don't wipe this unit on a single activation and these 2 models are alive, I'm going to be put in a position where those 2 models will just stand back up or stand back out on the objective and flip it again. And their efficiency in combat could be gone, but their efficiency in terms of impacting the board is not. So, the general rule of thumb I would say is, like, if it's close, if you're hemming and hawing over it, like, spend the CP, make sure it dies. Like, that is much better, because if you do all the work to clear this unit, but you don't clear the whole thing, you come out here, you terraform it, so then you would score it at the end, like, complete the action at the end of your turn. That means on your opponent's following turn, they could very easily just step back out and flip it. So now you've exposed all of those things and given up an asset, and you didn't even keep control of it in a realistic way for longer than 1 turn of scoring, which is 1 point. Which, if you've watched any of the other videos that Lane and I have discussed, like, giving up a unit for 1 point of VP, the majority of times, unless it's going to literally cause you to win the game, is a very hard sell. And the same thing applies here. If you're giving up a unit, you realistically need to give it up for more than 1 VP. It's got to be something that, like, okay, I'm gonna terraform on the middle objective, and I know I'm in a position where I'll be able to control it for at least 2 turns. Great, do that. That could be valuable depending on the quality of the unit and its job and what it's doing. But if you go out there and you don't even keep control of it for more than a turn, well, I've given up an asset and my opponent hasn't had to put anything else out. Like the unit that they already had out there is the one that they're terraforming. With again, that is incredibly difficult, and it's going to put you 100%. Behind in the game.
And I think that's a mistake that can get made a lot. And it's one of those things where even as a non-elite player, right, you need to make sure your units still count for something when they do activate, when they do these things, right? If you're playing that trash army, if you can secure, your own, you make sure they're not going to deny, right? It's still more important to get board control over just having something that should be maybe going to screen to flip it one turn earlier, right? Just like Phil was saying, what good does it do to flip it for 1 point when maybe, it's like it's we'll say it's my guard army. I could have had that unit just go +3 to move, advance them, and I just block your entire army from even interacting in the center for a turn, right? That is going to buy me much more points in the long run if I can actually just control the table and then make a good terraform a turn later, right? Something that's going to stick. Make sure you're not just throwing away things for 1 or 2 points. Make sure that you are trading effectively and that you're not giving up board position to get 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, because you still get the 4 VP for every objective you control, right? You're still capped at 12 for primary objectives. You're not capped at 12 for the terraform totals. Those are a separate pool, unfortunately. But it's like, okay, I'm not going to give up an objective just for the aspect of, I was able to terraform it, and now my opponent just walks onto it, they flip my natural, and they're like, okay, well, I didn't, I'm not able to terraform it, but I denied 4 points off your primary. I will take that trade. I will, as a player, your opponent, I will say, okay, that's fine. Like, I won't terraform it. That's okay, but you are on 4 VP now versus 8, and I'm on 8 or 12. Overall in the game. So you're putting yourself in a really tough position by saying I'm sacrificing everything for terraform. So don't get the blinders on. Don't think that terraform is the end all be all. There are some armies that do it well, and if there's an opportunity, take it. But don't forget, you're giving up a full activation for a unit, and positioning wise, you're giving up an activation or a positioning for that unit. So don't put yourself in a position where it's just like 1 unit for 1 VP,
and
that can be very difficult.
I'm trying to think of the best way to go about this, that you can use this stuff as traps, right? I just talked about how it's not worth going to deny your opponent their first terraform. There's times I let my opponent do that because I don't want to have to deal with that trash unit later, right? I'll put only a few guardsmen. I'll be like, so if you just come over here, you can auto-see me. You can terraform. Cool. Now I have dealt with your 1 denial piece. Turn 1, sure, it's going to cost me 1 VP potentially going into my turn. I have guard shenanigans to, up my OC in my own turn, but that's a little bit cheeky. But still, I would give up a little bit of VP to be able to make sure that unit I'm going to struggle to dig out and deal with on my own terms is something that I can get out of the way early, and then I just hold my natural, right? There's things like that you can build into a game plan. That's a little bit maybe more advanced and maybe risky than some people should try, but there are ways you can kind of abuse it.
Yeah, I guess to simplify it, and the process of elimination that you as a player need to have in your head is, okay, am I going out to this objective to deny primary? Great. Am I also capable of terraforming? Yes. Am I doing it by adding another unit to stack 2 units on there to potentially terraform it, and then on top of that, flip the objective? Okay, so now is it worth it for potentially giving up 2 units to make sure that I denied primary and I've terraformed, I've flipped back their terraform? It could be, definitely could be, but you need to make that evaluation as a player. Like if I had a 9 or 10 unit count army, probably not going to happen. But if it's like my GSC where it's in the 20s without their recursion, I'm like, yeah, I'll give up whatever. I will make sure that you have to fight tooth and nail for every point. And I can do those things with armies like that. So you need to make the evaluation going forward. So layout 1, we've already talked about layout 1. If you want to see kind of our thoughts on it, those thoughts apply for this mission in terms of where to stage and what to do. Lane, yes, remind me, it's layout 1, layout 2, 4, 6, and 8. Okay. Layout 2, 4, and 6 are probably the ones that the majority of players are going to struggle with in Terraform. They are a lot more exposed, right? These middle objectives are not safe. in the slightest, right? There are lines all the way down that like players can get after and shoot. It's not what you necessarily want to see. So going out to these objectives is even more risky. If you're going to come out here, right, you're really going to be behind this terrain. This middle objective is incredibly hard um, to not, like, if we're on this objective in any way, we're getting shot. And potentially that means we're giving up a unit and our opponent is not coming out and doing anything in return. Now, if it's a trash unit and it's turn 1 and you're going to score area denial anyways, sure, run out there, score your area denial, do your terraform action, and die a glorious death. But you've gotten your team a bunch of points. That model has done its job. That unit has done its job. There are positions that we can be in, especially behind this terrain, where we are partially safe. But the problem is those bigger units, when they start running back, you'll see it. Oh, well, now I'm starting to get seen by their corner of the board. So in a layout like layout 2, I will say, like, controlling these lanes on the side, like, you have to control these. You cannot allow the game to go and you not control these lanes in some way. Now, you don't necessarily have to have the combat to do it. There's other ways to do it. Like, if I had a combat unit, I'll show you right here in a second, right? Like, if my combat unit is staged here, I have control of this lane. I can pressure this objective and I can get after things that are behind it. This is a great staging point to apply pressure to this lane and apply pressure to this objective. It's the same place elsewhere, right? But on these objectives, you have to be able to come out here. So lone op, so stealth, so like all those units with indirect and stuff like that actually gets you in a good position to control these objectives early. Layout 2, I'll show you now. Layout 4, also very, very exposed. These middle objectives are very, very tough to control because there are staging points, very accessible staging points, literally on the other side, right? Like, I can stage a unit right here and get after your natural. The same thing on the other side. Same with layout 6. Layout 6, also very exposed. This middle objective has a lot of options for our opponent to get after, right? They can be inside this terrain. They can be inside any of these pieces of terrain and see and shoot us to get after these middle objectives. These edge objectives are a little better, but they're still accessible. We have these great 2-inch wall sections and footprints that prevent a lot of cross-court shooting. So it is not as difficult to get after our opponent's natural in any of those. Layout 1 and layout 8, completely different.
It definitely can be very difficult, and that's why you need to be, cognizant of how is this going to go, especially when we look at, I would say, layout 2 and 4 the most. Layout 6, it's still definitely there. It is a wide gap kind of between the staging ruin and your each other's naturals, I guess we should say. But when you're looking at the board too, right, you can treat it as kind of like a mini game around each objective, right? How many resources can they realistically trade back and forth to control this? Do they have the extra to potentially not only send something to deal with what I have on the objective, but also get off a terraform, right? It's that extra layer. How many times are people really going to want to send 2 units flying across the board to your natural to not only deal with the unit you have on there, but also get a terraform off that's not even going to stick around for that long? Right? Don't get hyper fixated. It's always still worth it to go deny 4 VP for just holding it, right? Use your resources for that if you're looking to deny. Don't be denying trying to get terraform. That's icing on the cake, and that's not what we're here for. It's still a primary focus game when it comes to holding objectives for 4 points.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, Lane, any final thoughts on Terraform? Any final recommendations?
I talked against it, but I do want to make sure we do touch on, you can use it to set tempo. If you have the units, like Phil was saying, terraform all 3. Top of turn 1, you're going, you do all 3 when you're playing GSC, because you have the recursion, you have the trash, right? That's going to set a tempo, even if you're losing units. If they have to keep throwing things forward to get you off off the objectives and to terraform, the points advantage that they have to look at and go, oh damn, because that's 12 points. If you were to hold all 3 objectives, all 4 turns of scoring, is it 24 technically? Is the max, quote unquote, for terraform, because you get it at the end of their turn and the end of your turn. So 8 turns. And that is 3 points a turn. That's 24 points that they have to make sure they are doing something about actively when it comes to primary scoring, right? So use that to your advantage. Make them sweat. Make them deal with it. Say, hey, I'm going to terraform the middle. I'm going to just do it every turn on these open boards, right? If you have some shooting, it is worth your trash every time for the first 1 or 2 turns, right? When you can make sure that they have to just keep committing stuff that you have extra of. Yeah, I think that's it. Make people sweat if you're playing GSC.
Yeah, there's other armies that can do it. Guard can do it. I think there's like variations of demons that can do it. Necrons as well. Like there are other armies that can do that thing. It just gets harder, and you have to be prepared to do it, and you have to have a game plan for it. So that's why we think these videos are so important, even if it's just us, kind of talking through a lot of generalities, because Lane and I can't give you specifics for every army. We need to put thoughts in your head. That way, when you're walking up to the table, you have a semblance of a game plan, which I know you are all capable of doing. So go out, create your game plan, and that way you can execute on a mission like Terraform, because it is a more challenging mission, and I think a lot of the others in the mission pack
that is going to
are.
be it for our Terraform mission video. In the meantime, please do not forget to like and subscribe. That helps us out immensely. We just hit 2K subs. Phil and I just got done playing on the stream this week. Yeah, was a great time. Loved having all of you stop by. And we are headed out to Vegas this weekend. We're going to be going to a teams tournament, the LVTT. I'm going to be putting some content together for our team as they play, and hopefully getting some interviews with a lot of other great players from around the country that are there. And yeah, we appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for helping us reach 2K subs. And do not forget that victory isn't given, it is forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.